Hello students, welcome to the question number 4. Now this question is about one of the schools of Buddhism. So question goes like this: what is shunyata? Okay, so the first thing is, the question is clearly asking you to kind of define what shunyata is. Does the conception of shunyata make madhyamika a nihilist? So the thing is madhyamika nihilist? The question, right? Now this question is of 10 marks and is of 150 words. Now, as we generally do, okay, what is the demand of the question? The demand of the question is clearly saying, asking you to kind of explain, define, whatever you want to call it, shunyata. Okay, that is shunyavad, etc. and the debate of nihilism. So basically, no, this is just articulation of what the demand, as you already know. This is how we go for the question or the answer, sorry. So once that is done, as you already know, what do? We kind of imagine 2 pages, right? Then what would we do? We'll write introduction, then we'll write subheading 1, then we'll write subheading 2, then kind of a critical comment and conclusion. Now here critical comment does not make much sense because you are talking basically about the debate only. So anyway, okay, what you have to talk about is so this subheading 2. Subheading 1 would be shunyata, explaining what it is. Then okay, nihilism. Okay, then not nihilism, and then conclusion will be the conclusion that you can draw briefly between the two or on the basis of these two. Okay, so introduction, what would you write in introduction? Now introduction will talk about basically Madhyamika school. Okay, some mention of Madhyamika, mention of Nagarjuna, okay, as a school of Buddhism. Okay, and mention about Mahayana. Just a mention that, so Madhyamika school is based on the concept of avoiding the extremes propounded by the Nagarjuna, of which the central idea is idea of shunya or shunyata. This school of Buddhism is kind of a branch of Mahayana sect or Mahayana school of Buddhism basically. Okay, so this much introduction is enough. Basically you are talking about shunyata being the central kind of aspect in this particular school. Then you talk about shunyata. Now what is shunyata? Shunyata is number 1, reality is neither mental nor non-mental. Then shunyata is about nothingness. Shunyata is about nothingness. Okay, then so this is like broadly, see, why you are anyway going to discuss about the debate later. So you basically think that ultimate reality is nothingness, mental, non-mental, both are not real. Now, why you need to somewhere mention about this concept called object subject being very important for knowledge. If object subject and knowledge triad, object subject knowledge, or basically knower, known and knowledge, and if knower is kind of invalidated, the whole process of knowledge gets invalidated. So what they establish by that process is the knowledge itself is not possible because it is indeterminate. Okay, and here only you mention about this being similar to the concept of Brahm of Advait. Okay, so that much is about Shunyata, like what Shunyata is and things like that. Then comes it is nihilism. Now, why it is nihilism? Because it does not accept any reality. Okay, mental or non-mental, or rather it accepts what? Nothingness as only reality. Nothingness as only reality. So it tends to go closer to nihilism, or it appears, need to point is, it appears that to be going closer to nihilism. Now you need to see, you need to understand one thing. As the debate is there whether this thing is nihilism or not, that purely means there is some aspect which makes it closer to nihilism. So you need to talk about as to what makes, what all these aspects which actually kind of compels someone to think that Shunyata is nihilism. But then comes the other aspect of this particular thing. What proves that to be not nihilism? So in that case, what happens? You try to talk about the aspects of different truths, the concept of truth. So what this says is there are two levels of truth. So on the basis of these two levels of truth, okay, what happens is it is decided on the basis of the understanding of the truth at different level. Okay, and this is also very similar to this Paramarthika. So it is called Samvritti Satya and Paramarthik Satya. So Samvritti Satya and Paramarthik Satya. So what they say is at the Paramarthik Satya, the Shunyata becomes the only reality, but it is a reality in a sense, and Samvritti Satya, it is at the ordinary level. So from ordinary point of view, it is nothingness, because whatever ordinary people consider as knowledge is what they are denying, but they are not denying Paramarthik Sat, that is concept of Nirvana. So at Nirvana, they are not rejecting Nirvana, they are rejecting at Samvritti Sat, they are rejecting the typical Sat that people talk about, whether this table is there, chair is there, and these things are there. So we cannot call them nihilist in absolute sense because they accept this. Okay, and once you write this, then you write in the form of conclusion that no, it is not nihilism at the absolute level. It is at the Samvritti Sat, it is at empirical level, we can call it as nihilistic school, but ultimately it is not a nihilistic school because it accepts the concept of Nirvana. Okay. And by the way, because anyway it is a debate that we are talking about, so no need to mention criticism because we are already taking two aspects. In what context it seems like nihilism, in what context it is not nihilism. So both the aspects are covered. You just conclude, the answer is over. Okay. I hope this is clear. Okay. So let's go to the B, question number B, that was for the practice. Now question number B says elaborate upon Sarvastivadins. Okay, now what is Sarvastivadins? Sarvastivadins is, there are four schools that we study in Buddhism. One is Madhyamik, second is Yogacara, third is Sautrantik, fourth is Vaibhasik. So of this, first two are Madhyamika schools and last two, Mahayan schools, and last two are Heenyan schools. And because Madhyamik and Yogacara does not accept external reality, non-mental reality at all. So they are called Asarvastvadins. And Heenyan schools, both the schools of Heenyan. So Buddhist schools, Mahayan, Heenyan. In Mahayan we have Madhyamik and Yogachar. Then in Heenyan we have Sautrantik and Vaibhasik. So these two are called Sarvastivadins. Sarvastivadins. Sarvastivadins means what? Sarva Asti. That is mental and non-mental. Both realities are accepted. And this is what first you have to establish. Then how both differ from each other. So they differ from each other not in the context of metaphysics, but they differ in the context of their epistemological stand. Okay. So how would you write it? Question is about 10 marks. Okay, same thing. First you write intro, then you write subheading 1, then you write subheading 2, then you write critical, and then you write conclusion. Now here again criticism is not very relevant, basically because you are anyway comparing two different schools. Okay. So any introduction? So basically question is about Buddhist school. So introduction you just introduce as in it is Heenyan, mention of Heenyan school of Buddhist philosophy. And Sarvastivadins because they accept, okay, both mental and non-mental. So, okay, how you can introduce is among the Buddhist schools, okay, two major Buddhist branches, Heenyan and Mahayan. Heenyan schools have two sub-schools in the name of, or two sub-schools who accept mental and non-mental as real. So hence they are called Sarvastivadins, in bracket, all that is there is real. So basically accepts the reality of mental and non-mental both. That is called Sarvastivadins. Then comes first subheading, you talk about Sautrantik. Briefly you talk about what Sautrantik means. Then you talk Vaibhasika school, and then you talk about difference. Now the point here is difference is not like they have some 10-15 points of difference. It's not like that. Difference is basically on the, so you have to comment the difference is epistemological. Okay, one is saying that non-mental is known by mental through inference. Okay, it is called Bahya Anumevad, in bracket you mention. Okay, and while other accept Pratyaksh as the source. Okay, now Vaibhasik says, Vaibhasik criticize कैसे करते हैं? That without perception there is no inference. Okay, and Sautrantik will say it is perception alone does not give any knowledge. It is inference which actually gives knowledge. Perception just gives discrete data which cannot be considered as valid knowledge. And another thing that Vaibhasika talks about is, Sautrantik, while criticizing perception, because perception goes wrong, then Vaibhasik will answer that in that case inference also goes wrong sometimes. Okay, so this is a debate between the two that one considers. Ultimately conclusion kya hoga? Though Sarvastvadin both accept mental and non-mental, they differ and they stand differ. They don't want to reconcile their position considering somebody else's view. So they still continue with the same view, okay, and explain things. Now here, the main point that is to be communicated here is Sautrantik, Vaibhasik. Now, Sautrantik, Vaibhasik, 1 or 2 points each. Oh, sorry, 2 to 3 points each you have to mention what exactly and why exactly with example. Like whenever you know things, mind, like you perceive things, but mind actually kind of acts as the machine or the instrument that draws the inference. So you see something, like you see chair, so it's not just some discrete data of the color and the size of the shape is enough for you to understand what it is. That chair needs to be interpreted. So this interpretation is nothing but anuman according to them, because this interpretation happens according to what the knowledge that you already know and some vyapti, like if this is the case, this is the shape, then it has always been chair for me, so for me this is also chair now. And they will say that perception, then sometimes if you rely only on perception, then knowledge will not be valid enough. Why? Because sometimes what happens again, snake and rope example also they give just to deny perception as the reality. So perception cannot be real. Sautrantik school. Same way Vaibhasik comes into picture and says that no, knowledge is directly perceived, because without direct perception there is can't even this thing possible. So Vaibhasika school has their own this thing. Now there will be little bit repetition here. See, the point is when you will mention things, why we have divided these things in a particular different subheadings is to cover many maximum points. 1 or 2 points might seem to be kind of repeating because the point that is being covered here and here will be similar, but here it will be explaining Sautrantik and Vaibhasik, and here it will be kind of 1 or 2 lines only maximum. Here also the difference between the two, and the conclusion is basically about both are anyway Buddhist schools of thought, and both criticize Madhyamik, that is Mahayana schools, being very not sticking to the original thinking of the Buddha and getting into unwanted waters of metaphysics. That's what basically that was the criticism of, especially of Madhyamika school, because what the language that Madhyamika is speaking is very close to what Advaitins will speak. Okay, so that's how they kind of criticize the rejection that is being done by Yogacara. And so in conclusion, this you can mention basically because the debate is not just between these two, the debate is also between these two and the Heenyan Mahayana too. Okay, so that's all about this question. Okay, this only first question is little tricky in the sense you have to explain nihilism wala. Okay, you have to mention about void, devoid, indeterminate. Okay, the misconception is between whether it is void or it is devoid. Void is what misinterpretation which makes it nihilistic, but devoid is not nihilism, it's the state of absence, of kind of absence, state of absence, explanation of absence, interpretation or symbolic explanation of absence. That's what it is talking about. Okay, so thank you very much. If you have any doubt, we are meeting on Sunday. We'll let you know the timing. Mostly it will be around 5 o'clock in the evening for 1 hour, 4 or 5 o'clock. I'll inform you.